It is no secret that the utilization of cover crops can provide multiple environmental benefits, such as the prevention of soil erosion and nutrient leaching. New on-farm research is looking to see how much adding cover crops to your rotation, how much that can actually improve physical, chemical, and biological indicators of soil. Market Journal's Bill Dodd brings us this story.
The Soil Health Initiative is a partnership between the Nebraska NRCS, producers around the state of Nebraska, and the University of Nebraska Research and Extension. From the onset of this initiative, producers have been given the opportunity to design different experiments on their respective operations in order to test different soil health management systems. That context is the basis for a new study that aims to relay the importance of cover crops for soil health in Nebraska.
What we're showing in the figures and in general, some of the findings are that the longer-term use of cover crops is leading to improvements of some important soil properties and functions. The longer the cover crops have been in use on these farms, we're seeing some of those improvements increasing. And so in particular, in Figure 2, what you're looking at is the relationship on the left between the soil health biological test activity and the predicted nitrogen release. So what some of the properties that were analyzed, what they attempt to do is explain some of the nutrient pools, carbon and nitrogen in the soil, that are in addition to what you might test for in a standard chemical test. So a lot of producers at the end of the season will have soil samples taken and they'll look at what are the inorganic nitrogen levels in their soil, which is really important for thinking about how much fertilizer to apply in the next year for their cash crop, or in the spring for that subsequent cash crop. The Haney soil health test results that were analyzed in this paper, what that does is tries to look at more aspects of the nitrogen and carbon cycling that are in the soil. What is happening with more of the microbially available carbon and nitrogen pools? Again, that would go beyond what a typical inorganic chemical soil test would look at it. So what we're showing in the analysis is really promising, that those farms that grew cover crops for longer periods of time, again, had greater soil biological test activity. And although, again, we'd expect to see the relationship between carbon dioxide and nitrogen release, the trend is clear that the longer use of cover crops led to greater potential nitrogen release and potential nitrogen savings for a subsequent wheat or corn crop, which, given the price of fertilizer inputs right now, we think is promising to demonstrate how the impact of these soil health management systems can lead to improved profitability over time.
The results of this study do show a steady positive relation to improved soil health with the integration of cover crops. However, producers who have a more favorable schedule for incorporating cover crops into their rotation are likely to see the best results from this management strategy.
My experience, and from the results of this study, we do see that farmers are finding success with cover crops, especially where it is maybe a little bit easier to integrate that into their operation. So where livestock are included, or where there are more crops than just corn and soybean grown, because that opens up more growing windows to have cover crops growing for longer periods of time, if that's after something like corn silage harvested earlier in the fall, or wheat harvested in the late summer. So I think that those farmers are finding more success where the cover crops are a little bit easier to integrate into their systems, and that all of those practices together can really have positive improvements.
If you're thinking of adding a cover crop to your rotation, one big step to keep in mind is the timetable as it pertains to termination of cover crops that have been planted.
I think the best and way to get started is really to think about termination 10 to 14 days ahead of cash crops. That's typically what is suggested, and there are a lot of nice resources available to producers. One that I could point people to is the Midwest Cover Crop Council has produced, and through University Extension, what they call cover crop recipes. So some ways for people to get started. Some of the things that I've mentioned and like to mention to folks, again, would be if you're thinking about just planting a cover crop that might not overwinter is a nice way. There's a recipe on the website for that. And then also thinking about, again, that typical termination consideration of 10 to 14 days prior to planting corn or soybean.
In short, the results of this study offer a glimpse of the success producers have been working toward for several years. With the recent spike in fertilizer input costs, these management practices could make for a more profitable crop. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.